Be a part of Going In Raw today at patreon.com/Steven Larson. Starting at $1 a month, you can enjoy Going In Raw ad-free, gain access to the daily 30-minute Going In Raw post-show, exclusive merchandise, and so much more. Support Going In Raw today. Click the link in the description.
Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to right here at youtube.com/Steven Larson, and available wherever fine podcasts can be found. This is, of course, our Wrestle Kingdom 13 review. Man, what are we going to do next year when it's over 2 days?
I guess we do 2 videos for it. 2 nights in a row. No sleep. Or we just go.
Not doing that.
We'll just go to it. How about that? We're there.
Definitely not doing that. Not till 2021. Interesting show. It was a fun look. It was a Wrestle Kingdom. It was a fun show.
Yeah, it was a fun show. We had the specter of All Elite Wrestling hanging over the whole thing. They already announced that stuff, so all the people involved in that we knew were going to lose. So it sucked a lot of the drama out of some of the matches.
There were a couple of odd things going on. Number one, so there was a rumor that went around from bodyslam.net about the potential future of Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
And the idea that he might be leaving New Japan.
Yeah, that kind of broke right as the show started. It felt like, or was brought to our attention.
And
that was always in the back of our head leading into the main event. Like, how is this all going to play out?
We're going to get into the sort of details of that a little bit later. But yeah, like the idea that he could be leaving New Japan, and then there's an obvious destination for him that is not All Elite Wrestling, based on some more stuff that was allegedly coming out, or that was coming out in the rumor mill, which kind of cast. It sort of took some of the intrigue out of the main event. I mean, when you hear this stuff, you kind of assume, okay, well, they had Tanahashi win the title after a 6-month reign from Kenny Omega.
Roughly, yeah.
And, they could have done this, I guess, at New Year's Dash tomorrow. But instead they went with, hey, let's just get that title off him, give it to Tanahashi.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how often the IWGP heavyweight title is defended at New Year's Dash. So I don't really know if there's precedent for their top champ on the verge of maybe leaving the company. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Usually, yeah. I mean, there's not a lot of precedent for the title changing hands at Wrestle Kingdom.
No,
either.
Not the top belt. No, it hasn't happened in like 8 years.
But every title changed hands.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And yeah, there's just you mentioned this during the stream, I think. Did they need to announce the All Elite Wrestling thing 3 days before New Japan's biggest show? Kind of the company that made them, that they're leaving. And, because number one, it made obvious that the Young Bucks, like, why were the Young Bucks even fighting for titles?
I know, especially after the 1st of January when we learned they have their own promotion they're starting. It's like, especially, why are they even fighting? I mean, if it's just so they can have one last chance to wrestle in the Tokyo Dome and kind of say goodbye, all right, I understand that.
Yeah.
But then just wait until you announce like on that episode of Being the Elite, announce Double or Nothing and say more information coming January 8th. We're holding a rally.
We're having
for
that rally,
something or another, Yeah.
And
then at the rally, announce All Elite Wrestling. You can tease it in that Being the Elite, but don't go so far as to announce it because, like, there's zero intrigue, zero drama in the U.S. title match. Zero.
Yeah.
The only intrigue in the tag title match was who not named the Young Bucks was going to win the belts.
Right.
They had zero chance.
Yeah. I'll put it this way. There was just a lot of weird stuff going on. We had a British promotion title being fought over in New Japan, which, I mean, granted, we've seen before.
Yeah, we've seen Ring of Honor title defended at Wrestle
Right,
Kingdom
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
But I mean, and that was the Zack Sabre Jr. versus Tomohiro Ishii
Great match.
That was like that might be the best match on the card. It's either that or Osprey Kota Ibushi. That ending just got us a little too worried.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just kind of a weird show.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, look, it had all the great wrestling you expect from a New Japan show, but when you already expect that, if some of the drama sucked out of it, it makes it less great.
Yes. Agreed.
So I mean, I guess you can say that the Okada. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. We'll just start from the beginning.
Yeah, start from the top. No New Japan Rumble. Instead, we get this gauntlet match.
I should have known it was going to be a subpar Wrestle Kingdom with no New Japan Rumble.
A gauntlet match, not for the never openweight tag titles, but to determine a new number one contender. The first two teams were Tokyo Pimp, Marty Scurll, and Hangman Page taking on Jeff Cobb, Dave Finlay, and Yuji Nagata.
Yeah.
There's this weird, awkward things where Chase Owens came out with the Elite team and got on the apron, was getting into it with the Tokyo Pimp and Hangman Page.
Yeah.
And it looked like Hangman Page pushed Tokyo Pimp away from Chase Owens. They stopped arguing, but he inadvertently pushed him into Dave Finlay. Dave Finlay rolled up Tokyo Pimp, and the Elite's eliminated immediately.
Well, yeah,
because of Chase Owens.
Well, because they're going to All Elite Wrestling.
No, I understand that.
Like their entrances were longer than their actual time in the match.
I know.
So yeah.
So next it was Best Friends, Chucky T, and Trent, along with Hiroki Goto. They were next in. Chuck misses a moonsault. Finlay rolls him up for the win. 2 consecutive roll-up wins for Dave Finlay.
Yeah.
Next, Suzuki-gun. And they pretty much make pretty quick work of this team. KES, Killer Elite Squad, hits Killer Bomb on Dave Finlay, pins him. The last team out is Makabe, Yano, and Taguchi. The brawl happens instantly. They start brawling all around the ring.
This was kind of fun because immediately you just get oh no, that was way.
Well, pretty much instantly you get Suzuki and Makabe. Two grizzled veterans going at it.
Yeah, and there was a lot of fun stuff there. I'm sorry, no, I was thinking of with Suzuki and Nagata earlier, just going at it endlessly. Out to like there's actual matches happening inside,
but they're just fighting all around
the ringside. But yeah, what you were saying, Suzuki and Makabe then started going at it. Yeah. They were in the ring. That was really cool stuff because they just started trading. Like, let me ask you something. So Ishii and Suzuki are really fun to watch because Ishii will throw. They're both stiff guys.
Yeah, and they'll both throw.
Makabe was throwing what looked like, and I know like so much of wrestling is appearance.
Yeah.
Making something look like it hurts. But Suzuki was throwing these nasty forearms.
Well, I wasn't looking at the appearance. I was listening for the sound of the shots.
Yeah, well, what you're witnessing, your perception of what it looks like.
Suzuki, when he would land a forearm on Makabe, it sounded like a baseball bat hitting a raw turkey.
He's obviously just very good at, but there's also an element of he's just throwing really hard shots.
He just knows where to land them, so it's not really
Makabe, like I
damage.
was expecting some fire out of him, and we didn't really get that.
No.
Suzuki's so good.
Oh, he's the best. Anyways, Yano hit a low blow on Davey Boy Smith Jr. and pins him for the win. So at New Year's Dash, we're going to see this trio, Makabe, Yano, and Taguchi, take on Bullet Club OGs. I believe it's Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, and I believe Bad Luck Fale are the never openweight 6-man tag champs.
Not to get ahead of ourselves, but the good guy Tama Tonga thing did not work for Bullet Club.
It was wildly entertaining, though.
It was very entertaining, but it did not work. So I'm assuming at New Year's Dash, we're probably going to see him either reject the good guy angle or double down on it. I don't know. I kind of thought that he was going to double down on it in the finish of that match, but that didn't happen. So, yeah. But anyways, so that's going to happen tomorrow night at New Year's Dash.
Yes. In between the pre-show match and the start of the main card, there's a huge announcement for various shows happening for the rest of this year and early next year. 2 things of note. One, July 6th, 2019, there's going to be a show in Dallas at the American Airlines Arena. It's where the Dallas Mavericks play. And if I understand Kevin Kelly correctly, that will be the first opening night of the G1 tournament. It's going to happen.
Sounds like in the States, what he was saying. Yeah,
which is pretty massive.
That's great. That's huge.
And then also they announced next year in 2020, Wrestle Kingdom will take place January 4th and 5th. It's going to be a 2-day show.
Lately, for the past, even since before I was watching, which was only 2 years ago, they've been, these co-main events, they're big enough to headline their own shows. Last year, obviously, we got Omega Jericho. The year before that, we had, who was fighting for the IC title a year before that? Was it Naito? Yeah, probably Naito. And because it was Omega Okada and Naito and
Tanahashi?
Was it Tanahashi? Maybe it was Tanahashi. I forget.
I could be wrong.
But in any event, that's a big main event match right there.
It bugs me now.
Was it No.
Been wrestling
All right, we'll look it up.
11, yeah.
So I mean that's huge, man. A 2-day event, the 4th and 5th,
and it kind of falls in line with how I've been handling a lot of their shows, where instead of just doing one show one day, they spread them out over a couple days.
Yeah, Tanahashi.
So they're just extending that all the way to Wrestle Kingdom now.
And it's a weekend next year.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be on a Friday and a Saturday, I assume.
Yeah,
because this time was on a Thursday.
Well, it's a Friday in Japan, so it'd be Saturday. And
Saturday,
Sunday
right?
in
Yeah.
The main show kicked off with a never open weight title bout between the challenger Will Osprey and the champion Kota Ibushi. This was fantastic. They started off with all sorts of crazy moves and counter moves and reversals. And
you know what I really appreciated?
And all sorts of awesome stuff.
You know what I really appreciate about the opening to this, sort of to counter it with like a Ricochet Osprey match.
Mm-hmm.
The opening sequence to this, it had all the same elements of that, but just felt less choreographed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It just felt a little bit more like they're actually trying to hit each other.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, you know.
Well, and also when they did hit each other, it was stiff.
Yeah.
The physicality of this match was pretty intense and might have maybe gone too far at the end. I don't know.
You know, it's funny because we sort of made the parallel during the stream that like, you know, the Okada Shibata match was like a fantastic match. It was like a great match of the year contender.
Yeah.
But given what we know,
what happened to Shibata afterwards,
it sort of put a big damper on that match.
Yeah.
This had that same feeling. If it wasn't for, and it probably was just really good selling and part of the story, like that we haven't heard that, oh, Kota's really messed up or anything.
Yeah. But that's kind of how New Japan operates until they don't say anything until they have like a clear diagnosis.
Sure,
stuff.
yeah.
Like it took a few days, I think, for
taking time bomb.
Yeah, for Takahashi, and same with Shibata. It took a couple days.
Yeah.
And that was just for kind of reports and rumors to leak. It was even longer than that, I think. And New Japan issued an official statement.
People point out all sorts of stuff in terms of like, well, they had the young boys.
Put him on the board and stabilizing his neck, which they wouldn't have done. Like a medical staff would have done that. Probably.
So, I mean, I'm hoping that means that it's just fake. But the fact that it was like, man, because when they replayed, so the match was great. It was fantastic. It ended with Osprey delivering a nasty. I mean, they were calling it an elbow.
It was like a forearm to the back of Ibushi's head,
and he just landed with a thump, and then. It did. I don't know how if Osprey, it looked like he just powered him up
for a Stormbreaker to finish the match.
But that's a pretty crazy move to be able to do when the guy's out. And anyways, he got the pin and the win and the title.
And pretty much immediately they got a stabilizing board, and put Ibushi on it.
Yeah.
Ibushi, of course, has a history of neck issues. So hopefully he's cool. Hopefully everything's okay. This is just a really elaborate work. It could be just so he didn't come out for the main event.
Yeah, that could be.
Given the history between Ibushi and Tanahashi, maybe they just didn't want to address, Ibushi kind of, I think in the previous matches they had, whether it was the previous G1 or when their one-on-one matches outside of it, they made a whole point of saying that Tanahashi was like Ibushi's idol and stuff like that.
Well, because you sort of get into some stuff there with, so Kenny comes out and he essentially worked that match as a heel, the main event match. Character-wise, for certain, he was totally the bad guy in that match. And I wonder if they wanted to avoid any of the wonkiness that would be involved with the Golden Lovers thing. Is that when he's with Kota Ibushi, he's not a bad guy. He's like totally a good guy.
Yeah.
And so maybe that. So yeah, maybe that was simply to take him out of any hint of him being near the main event. That actually makes some sense right there, which makes me feel better. But yeah, no, this was probably, with the exception of the pole that was cast on the end, my favorite match of the night. Like seriously, this was such a stellar match.
It was 12 minutes or so of just nonstop action.
Oh yeah,
and counters upon counters upon counters.
Yeah,
it was fantastic.
It was a really beautiful match. Osprey, just him and Ibushi both elevate that never title like immediately.
A ton, yeah.
I'm really excited to see where Osprey takes that open weight
and
title.
hopefully they really use it as an opportunity to do these matches that are across divisions.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, give me Osprey versus... Yeah.
But then next, Osprey versus like Ishii.
And then show, yeah.
And then eventually it'll get back around the waist of Goto.
That was 18 minutes, almost 18 and a half minutes.
I would have thought it was like 20. But yeah.
It's one of the longer matches on the card.
Yeah.
Third longest match.
Yeah, it was a heck of a match. Yeah, and the whole show felt very breezy.
Yeah, it did.
And it kind of was.
Yeah, I mean, this next match, the triple threat match for the junior tag titles, didn't even last 7 minutes.
Wow.
Pretty short.
So speaking of which, Roppongi 3K, LIJ's Bushi and Shingo Takagi, and
Suzuki Goons, Kanemaru, and El Desperado.
Yeah.
It was mostly, Roppongi 3K was handling business in the ring against the Suzuki Goon team. And at one point, Shingo Takagi tagged himself in, and he just more or less cleaned house. He hit a pin show after his finisher, Last of the Dragons, but given how the match went down, and Suzuki Goon never got back in the ring after Takagi tagged himself in, I wouldn't be surprised if we get LIJ versus Suzuki Goon for the junior tag titles at New Year's Dash, so that LIJ could beat Suzuki Goon themselves, and then, no doubt, they are the junior tag champs.
LIJ. That was one of the themes of the night. That was the one sort of constant thing. You had a bunch of weird stuff going on with Kenny, the Young Bucks, Cody, of course, but LIJ draped in gold.
Yeah, they have almost all the belts
by the end of the night.
Yeah. Next, a really awesome match between Zack Sabre Jr. and Tomohiro Ishii. Before the match started, Taka Michinoku dropped a promo saying how great Zack Sabre Jr. is, and he is great.
You know what? He is great.
He is great.
He's submission master.
He is submission master.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. In the end, he was a submission master because Ishii couldn't tap out because he had both his arms behind his back.
One arm here, and then he had a foot right here.
Yeah, he had to verbally submit.
Yeah.
Great match where Zack Sabre Jr. was working over Ishii's arm, his right arm, repeatedly throughout the entire match, and eventually came to play at the end. Zack Sabre Jr. is your new Rev Pro champ. Got a new belt too,
and literally new Rev Pro
brand
champ
new belt
because the belt, it looks more like a New Japan belt. It looks like a real belt. Looks great. That other one looked like tin.
Yeah,
that was terrible.
And again, we got a couple sequences with Zack where Ishii was trying to angle himself to get the rope, and he sees Zack Sabre Jr.'s process of trying to counter everything. It's great.
Hamster, little submission hamster.
They had a match when we went to the first G1 special in USA during the U.S. title tournament.
That was a great match.
They had a match, and we were close enough to see all that on day 2, I believe, where Zack, you could see, Ishii's putting his foot here. I got to do this to keep him off the ropes. Great stuff.
Oh man, that's great. And now he's going to go home and solve Brexit. And then after
he's got a match against Pac on the 6th. Rev Pro.
He can do both, man.
Oh, I believe
he's submission master.
I believe that. I believe that Zack Sabre Jr. can do all those things.
If you take your time out, try to solve Brexit, you might take your eye off the prize.
Pac.
Yeah.
Pac.
Wouldn't that be the shits? Yeah. So anyways.
Next, Young Bucks versus Evil and Sonata versus Girls of Destiny for the heavyweight tag titles. Good guy Tama Tonga is awesome. He doesn't want to shake everybody's hand.
He wants to. I love you.
Yeah, he goes to Matt Jackson. I love you.
Yeah,
shake my hand.
Nick was complaining to the ref. He was like, "What is all this?
Yeah.
What is all this love?"
Yeah,
and
he thought it was some trickery.
Yeah, man.
From good guy Tama Tonga. However, it seemed legitimate.
Yeah.
Because then he went over to Evil and it's like, "Here, shake my hand."
Yeah.
And then Evil's like, "All right," shakes his hand. The ref says, "Tag," and Tama Tonga gets tossed from the ring.
Yeah.
Evil gets in there.
Can we please talk about for a moment the entrances? Sonata coming out looking like the most amazing, well-designed character I've ever seen in my life. And then Evil stumbles out.
With an oversized hood.
Which he's got some weird, goofy hologram machine in one hand.
Yeah, and he has his scythe. his oversized scythe in the other hand.
So he's trying to get his hood is like down to his nose, and he's sitting there stumbling around trying to get dude, you just gotta bring it down a notch.
Yeah, I know.
Look. Number one, if you're gonna have a hood on, practice backstage and make sure that it's not going to be an issue.
And if it's too large, then like get a thing where it's.
You already have a mask and you've got your hair braided. Just ditch the hood,
or get like some bobby pins or something so it stays in place.
That's too much.
No, it'll stay in place. It
much.
takes like one here and one here. It'll stay in place, and all you have to do is pull it back, and it's pretty seamless.
It wouldn't surprise me if he had that. And what happens is it's not seamless, and it does fall out of place because those bobby pins, they'll just come right out.
Nah.
I will guarantee you he had bobby pins.
No, I guarantee you wouldn't.
Because I think Evil is a guy who prepares. And
I
he
think
was probably
so, too.
backstage, and he was prepared. He had the bobby pins. Then they just came loose, and he's sitting there. What am I supposed to do with this?
I don't know.
But he won. They won.
They did. Let's talk about good guy Tonga. Because there was a moment where Tonga Low had an opportunity to break up a submission move, and Tonga went to him and was like, no,
don't do that.
That's not the way to do it.
Yeah, you're breaking the rules.
So instead, they both went outside and started pushing the rope closer because Matt Jackson had Evil and the sharpshooter pushing the ropes closer to Evil's. Evil could reach out and break the hold legally.
Yeah, that was good stuff. It's kind of it is interesting because on the surface, when you see Tama Tonga doing this, good guy Tama Tonga stuff, he's at the forefront of this Bullet Club, rebranding type thing. He's out there making friends with Cultaholic culture. You automatically think there's no way they're going to take the titles off these guys, but in fact,
this is actually a fairly dominant performance by Evil and Sonata.
It was. And it also illustrates that, okay, well, maybe Tama Tonga was doing this as part of the story of them losing the titles. You don't think about that. He's doing something so oddball and weird, it makes sense that he's just going to keep the titles. But no, it's quite the opposite.
Yeah.
He's doing that weird stuff to tell the story of him losing the titles. That, to me, is fascinating.
And then we'll get a rebirth of Bad Boy Tama Tonga, I'm sure, at some point.
I mean, it's how many of these characters struggle with good and bad, and this is a very obvious representation of that. But you have Okada going through the same thing on a much bigger scale with Balloon Okada, and then of course tonight Okada Reborn, who still ends up losing to Jay White.
Yeah,
it's great. It keeps you guessing. It's expectations and then
subverted.
Exactly,
and we still know who the Mole in Chaos is.
Yeah.
In the end, like Evil and Sonata are just doling out finishers to everybody. Oh, there's that great sequence earlier on where Sonata was doing springboards. Out of the ring or inside the ring, out of the ring on basically everybody.
Yeah.
Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
He's a heck of an athlete.
When he gets, I don't know when it's going to happen or how it's going to happen. Eventually, they're going to push that guy to the moon. He's going to get elevated to that spot when Naito wants to go to WWE, Okada wants to go to WWE, Tanahashi wants to go to WWE or Hollywood or something. It's going to be Sonata. He's going to be up there, and oh my gosh.
Oh, it's going to be great.
It's going to be like 2020, 2021.
Great.
He's going to have that year. It's going to be off the hook.
Did you ever watch that interview he did with before his match against Okada?
No.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
You got to watch that.
I know.
You really got to watch that. It's so good. In the end, Evil and Sonata were just doling out finishers to everybody, and it took a moonsault from Sonata to pin Matt Jackson. I knew a young buck was going to take the loss. I just kind of suspected a Gorilla of Destiny was going to be the one doing the pinning.
So I understand that, I saw a tweet from one of the young bucks that said, "Thank you, Japan." And I understand totally this had to have been a very emotional night for the Young Bucks. You couldn't really see it on their faces, though.
A little bit, as they walk to the ring.
Maybe they were overcompensating. I don't know. They had poker faces. It was almost as if they understood, what? It doesn't make any sense for us to be in this match.
Maybe.
That's the body language that maybe I was projecting. I don't know. But anyways.
They just weren't as vocal. Usually they're out there
right,
chatting a lot, talking a lot of trash, and you didn't really hear anything.
So, yeah, that's exactly right. They come down, and it was a fairly
They didn't
standard
have
entrance.
They didn't have their usual swagger.
Right. And hey, that could be melancholy. That could be, man, I would have just thought there would have been a little bit more soaking it in. Like Kenny was very emotional.
Yeah.
Kenny, you could read that all over. And I mean, I could understand why if the dude is going to go to,
someplace else,
to the Federation, and he's
can't
about
say
to
that
leave
he's
his
gonna
guys.
go to the entertainment.
Nobody wants to say that, man.
Yeah, no.
Oh, man. Anyways, before we continue, here are a few words from our sponsor of today's show, Robinhood. Yep, Robinhood is an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptos, all commission-free.
Robinhood strives to make a non-intimidating way for stock market newcomers like us to invest for the first time with confidence. Robinhood aims to make financial services work for everyone, not just the wealthy.
And Robinhood makes it easy to do. Robinhood is simple, intuitive, and features a clear design that allows me to digest information easily.
You?
Yes, even me.
For example, Robinhood offers easy-to-understand charts and market data, which prove to be extremely useful for investing novices like Steve and I. With Robinhood, you can learn how to invest as you build your portfolio.
Also, there are no commission fees. Other brokerages charge up to $10 per trade, but with Robinhood, you pay no commission fees, which means you keep all your profit.
And right now, Robinhood is giving listeners of Going in Raw a free stock like Apple, Ford, or Sprint to help build your portfolio. Sign up at goinginraw.robinhood.com. That's goinginraw.robinhood.com.
And thank you to Robinhood for sponsoring today's show. And hey, it really does help Going In Raw if you check out goinginraw.robinhood.com. Next up, we had Juice Robinson versus Cody.
More than
United
maybe
States
any
title.
other match, this one just felt like a formality.
I think this is the one I had all my confidence points on.
You did.
Yeah.
I had...
and you had like 9, I think.
Yeah, second most confidence points, because it did just feel like a formality.
It really did. I mean, here's the thing about Cody. Number one, I love Cody.
Yeah.
I think he's great.
He's
I
fantastic.
think I cannot wait for All Elite Wrestling. I say that truly. Wrestling-wise, he's a guy who can be brought to like a 5-potato match. He can't bring somebody to a 5-potato. I kind of feel the same way about Juice Robinson. He's not going to bring anybody to a 5-potato match.
He can
hold his own.
Yeah, with just about anybody.
And he can be brought there to a stellar match.
Yeah.
But when you have two guys who have to be brought there, you're not going to end up with a match that's a 5-potato match.
But also it's not just that, which is true, but also there's no drama because we know Cody's losing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if they try to orchestrate story beats to try to build some suspense, it's all for naught because we know Cody's losing the belt.
Well, let me.
They're going to have to go to extreme lengths for us to suspend our disbelief enough that we think Cody has a shot at winning.
Let me sort of illustrate this a different way. If Will Osprey, if I knew for a fact that this was his last match and he was going somewhere, and Kota Ibushi was going to stick around and they were fighting over a title, I kind of wouldn't care because those guys could put on a match.
Yeah, that'd be entertaining.
I don't care who wins. That match is going to be entertaining as heck.
I think what I was trying to say is because that's the case, they have to rely on telling an interesting story in the ring.
You're absolutely right.
But you can't really tell an effective, interesting story when you know the outcome.
The only thing they had going for them was the fact there was a title on the line, and we knew how that was going to end up.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Before the match even started, Cody gets that U.S. title and swings it at Juice. However, he misses.
By like a mile.
Yeah. Bell rings. Match gets going. Juice hits the juice box. He goes to the top rope, and then Brandy gets in the ring and covers Cody. And then Juice gets down. And Brandy's, come on, punch me.
I love Brandy's great.
She's
so great.
Awesome.
I love when she gets into heel mode. Like she's such a great character.
Oh, yeah.
Also, we have to note that Cody and Brandy were both branded head to toe in Jacksonville Jaguars colors, like down to the Jaguar print.
Yep. Totally.
It's a bit too much.
See, but if they had announced All Elite Wrestling and they had done that, people been like, oh, what does this all mean?
A lot of buzz right there. A lot of buzz, but it's already been announced.
Yep.
So he's getting.
Yep. our stream went down, but thanks to our wonderful friendos in chat, they filled this in that Brandy apparently speared Juice.
Yeah.
And then started dropping some fast hands on, but got ejected.
Yeah.
Juice hits Crossroads on Cody. Cody kicks out. And then Juice hits Pulp Friction, but doesn't go for the pin. Picks up Cody again.
Yeah.
One more Pulp Friction.
Yeah.
Pins him. He is new U.S. champion.
Yeah. Good for him. You know what, man? I really hope that I'm not a huge fan of Juice, but I always pull for the guy.
Yeah.
I want him to do well because I love his story of I hate WWE because I left.
Yeah.
Or they released him, I think.
Yeah.
And I can be much bigger and better here.
He is capable of dropping some pretty funny promos.
No, he is.
He's a decent promo guy.
I like him. It's just the character of Juice Robinson I'm not really into.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I don't really get what his thing is. The flamboyant Juice Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
He's got like a pirate thing, but he's not a pirate. I don't know what I don't know what he's supposed to be, man.
Yeah, I know. Other than just Juice.
Just Juice. Which might be enough. I don't know. Remember somebody said that they thought his gimmick was porn guy?
Yeah.
I never understood that. That I can get behind. That'd be cool. He comes out in like a different porn gimmick every like cable guy.
Yeah.
You know.
That'd be good.
TV repair.
Juice, what are you doing here? I'm here to fix the cable.
Here to fix the cable. Ooh.
Next, junior heavyweight title match. Bone Soldier Taiji Ishimori taking on the ace of the junior division, Kushida.
Let's talk about that intro. That entrance.
Oh, Kushida, where they had Kushida, a big head mode Kushida. So they had a kid.
A child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make his entrance, but he had like a large Kushida mask, but it was really lifelike.
This wasn't any Kushida mask. This looked like they put more money into this Kushida mask.
And they did in the whole stage, pretty much.
Right. Because it was, like you said,
it was lifelike.
Bizarrely lifelike. The only thing that kept it from me just freaking out was the fact that you could see down the middle here where the split in the mask was, and that was basically it.
Well, no,
his face didn't move.
That, but also it was too large to actually be a real human head.
Right.
It was way too large.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was big head mode status in 2K19.
And then Taguchi showed up as Doc Brown. I'm not really sure what the story they were trying to tell here was.
Yeah, because at no point did Marty get swapped with like a younger version of Marty.
Yeah. Were they thinking of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids or Big maybe? But no,
I think Honey, I Shrunk the Kids
bigger.
because I think Chris Charlton made a reference to that.
Oh.
They got their 80s movies kind of mixed up.
It's
mashed up.
It's all over the map. And then real Kushida shows up. The entire thing was, we talk about often, he's got Lou's face. It was Lou's entrance. Because you got Taguchi doing goofy comedy stuff, which I'm just not a fan of. And then like a weird big head mode mask. Why would they spend so much money on a Lou's entrance?
Yeah.
It was just a mess.
It didn't make a whole lot of
It's just too much Back to the Future. It's honestly kind of killing Back to the Future to me,
Wow.
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite trilogies.
Yeah.
It's like that.
That's saying something.
That and like Godfather 1 and 2 anyways.
Well, that's not a trilogy. 2 movies don't make a trilogy. I understand there's 3 Godfather movies, but most people choose to forget the third one.
See, I do too. I choose to think that Godfather 2 is kind of just 2 movies in one because you get the De Niro stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you also get the Pacino stuff.
Yeah, so that's a
You got
positive
De Niro and
attitude to have
Pacino.
about it. Yeah.
See?
This was a good match. Not as much high flying stuff as you may expect from a junior heavyweight match, but Kushida was working over Ishimori's arm.
Yeah, they were
setting him
acting
up
like
for
they
the
were submission masters.
hoverboard lock.
Yeah.
Whereas Ishimori was employing crossface, a couple instances. But in the end, he picked up the win with the bloody cross.
Yeah, I think like just placement wise, this probably should have been the opener,
Yeah.
and then the other one be here,
Yeah.
the Kotobushi match here.
Yeah.
Whatever, I'm not.
But I guess if the idea was to do the injury angle, hopefully it is an angle, to keep Kota out of the main event, then I guess if it happens to kick off the show, there's always a possibility that he could return from injury angle. Probably overthinking everything.
That could be.
Who knows?
Oh, wow. Look at this moment here on Twitter. People stay up overnight to watch New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestle Kingdom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, pretty great.
Is that a trending thing on Twitter?
That is a trending thing on
Wow.
Twitter. Yeah.
Next, Jay White versus the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. And Jay White comes to the ring with Gato, dressed in some gorgeous-looking white ring gear. And then Okada emerges from the stage with his old theme.
Yeah.
He comes out with a new robe.
Yeah. Oh, not just any robe.
A brand new robe. His hair is blonde again.
Oh, wow.
He gets to the ring, takes his robe off. He's got the trunks back. This is Okada reborn.
Yeah, it's reborn.
Yeah.
He's born again.
He's not
again.
Stumbling down the ramp. No balloon.
No hunch. Yeah. Oh, man.
But even that wasn't enough.
Well, this was necessary.
Oh, it absolutely was.
I'm glad they did this because Jay White ended up winning the match. Although it was a fairly dominating performance from Okada, and then Jay White just sort of snuck in that Sister Abigail, Blade Runner, and just snuck in the win, basically.
Yeah.
Which was something else. Kind of necessary if they're building up this Jay White Switchblade guy to be sort of the fill-in for Kenny Omega. He beat Okada at G1, Balloon Okada, and then again, expectations. Okada comes out reborn. He's going to wipe the floor with Jay White.
A relatively dominant performance too. Like every time Gato tried to get involved, Okada was like, "Oh, no big deal."
Right, exactly.
I'll counter that. He had a flying cross body.
There was some really fun stuff with him and Gato for sure. But yeah, it wasn't enough. Jay White, he's got that switchblade. It's like booked like Dirty Deeds, man. It's booked so strong. Laid out Okada with one of them after a lot of great sort of finishing sequences where they're each trying to get their finish off.
Oh yeah, there's a couple of really good sequences like that. Yeah,
it was really, really.
There's that one that was leading up to the actual finish where it was just the Jay White going for Blade Runner countered.
Yeah.
Into a Rainmaker attempt, countered into this move, countered into that move, back to Blade Runner, back to Rainmaker. It was like 30 seconds straight of countering. It was expertly.
It reminded me. I was watching.
Executed.
I was mentioning this to you earlier. I was watching at the gym on the treadmill, History of Bullet Club.
Yeah.
And they had a sequence from, I believe, the G1 finals a couple of years ago, Carl Anderson versus Okada. And there was a similar sequence where he was just trying to get off his
gun stun.
His gun stun, yeah. I love that name. But then, Okada hit his Rainmaker.
Always had an answer.
In this case, it was the opposite. In this case, Jay White hit that Blade Runner and picked up the win. No sign of the Chaos Mole. I was asking you this during the stream. Yano is hanging out with Taguchi Japan.
Yeah.
Or, Makabe, I guess.
Yeah.
Who's even the mole?
You think my initial idea was that it's got to be someone who's been with Chaos for a long time. So I thought Ishii.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't seem like Chaos is a especially tight-knit group.
They haven't really established who could it be? Like these specific people, it could be any of them. Will Osprey's doing his thing. I didn't even see any Chaos branding on him.
They usually don't really have a whole lot of branding on the individual members.
Well, Osprey specifically has in the past.
Oh, I know he has, but usually Ishii doesn't. He had, I think, a Chaos logo.
Yeah, Ishii doesn't usually.
A Chaos logo in his video package, but that was it.
So it's just, I don't know. It's not like, oh, well, which one is it? Who's acting shady? Everybody's just doing their own thing in Chaos. They all actually have very specific career goals for people who are part of a group called Chaos.
Yeah, I know. It seems fairly structured.
Exactly. So anyways.
But maybe now that we have Okada reborn, Chaos will kind of align behind him instead of kind of being a bit of a mess like it was when he lost the title and became Balloon Okada.
Could be.
And we'll get some Chaos versus Bullet Club stuff going on.
I hope so, but something tells me they're going to go in a direction that we
don't expect,
just haven't anticipated. The good news is, though, our friendo Eric Reed.
Oh yeah,
was in attendance. We had a couple of friendos there at Wrestle Kingdom, including Eric Reed, and he snagged a ton of Okada dollars. We both offered him a barter. We're gonna draw him some stuff.
Yeah,
I'm going to do a drawing. You're going to do drawing 2.
Yeah.
And then he's going to send us some Okada dollars.
Correct.
So I'm excited about getting some fresh Okada dollars.
Yes.
Up here on the set. That's very exciting.
It's very exciting. Very exciting. Great match, though.
It was a really good match.
Okada's like the best wrestler in the world.
He might be the best person in the world. It's like a toss-up. It's like him or, I don't know, Big E.
I really want to go on the Okada cruise.
More than the Jericho cruise.
Yeah.
Well, what is the Okada cruise offer?
It's like him and like 2 or 3 other guests on a boat, and there's food and drink. I think it's like a 2.5-hour cruise around Kobe.
That sounds fantastic.
I know, man. And you have to like enter a lottery to get a spot, and it costs like $230 or something like that.
The lottery costs $200.
No, to actually do the cruise.
How do we get in the lottery?
I think you have to enter. It might be a fan club thing.
Are the odds better or worse than Mega Lotto? What is that thing called?
Well, I guess
Mega
probably
Ball?
better, but still not good. Still not good. I think that'd be amazing.
This next one was a bit of a clunker of a match for me, I'll be honest with you.
I didn't think it was a clunker. It was a slow.
Yeah, to me, clunker is sort of synonymous with slow and clunky. Look, here's the thing about this match. So it's Tetsuya Naito versus Chris Jericho. No DQ.
Yeah.
Intercontinental Championship. This is kind of Jericho's thing these days. He brawls.
Yeah.
When you have a lot of just aimless brawling and Naito seeming obsession with spiking himself on his head, I'm not huge on it.
Well, he only did that once, didn't he?
There was that DDT
on the announce table.
That's the only
time I remember him spiking his head on.
That's good enough for me. That's
okay. Well, I don't know if one instance really is an obsession, but I get your point.
I don't need to see that.
It started out kind of like the mirror image of their match at Dominion, where at that match, Naito was a bit lackadaisical during entrances, got attacked from behind by Jericho. This instance, Jericho's a little lackadaisical, posing and preaching to the crowd with the title. Naito, having already taken off his new cloak and suit, he's out there. He's put Jericho, attacks him, goes up the ramp, hits a pile driver on the ramp.
Yeah.
Things take a turn for Jericho's favor when Naito kind of fakes doing the tranquilo pose instead of goes for a suicide dive. Gets hit in the head with a kendo stick.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, in between that, there was just, you get the spike DDT on the announce table from Jericho, and then a lot of kendo stick stuff. And I understand, being kind of a amorphous stretch of brawling in and out of the ring. I get that.
I think there's 2 things here that just sort of had me, and I'm not crapping on the match at all. I think it was, well, I don't know, maybe I'm crapping on the match. I'll put it this way. For my personal taste, it wasn't great. Last year's Wrestle Kingdom match between these two, I thought was exhilarating.
What, you mean Dominion? It was Dominion, these two, and it was Kenny versus Jericho at Wrestle Kingdom last year.
It was Kenny versus Jericho. Okay, let me go back to that match then. That match was a brawl, but it was a non-stop brawl. Mm-hmm. It wasn't really plotting. It was like they just went on Jericho just went on the offensive and was just doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And it was just really took me off guard. It was very surprising, and it just had a lot of energy to it. I feel like this match didn't really have a lot of energy to it. That was my main problem with it.
Well, there was a stretch between the spike DDT and when Jericho tossed a bunch of chairs in the ring, whereas it's like brawl in the ring, brawl around the ring, brawl in the ring, brawl around the ring. So I understand that.
Yeah. And then on top of that, the second thing is this. Tetsuya Naito is a terrific, fast-paced storyteller.
Yeah, he can be, yeah.
And I feel like, in the right match. And I feel like his matches with Tanahashi, that kind of stuff. It's just, man, it's so great. And I just feel like there was a lot of just people laying around in this match.
Yeah.
I
guess they were trying to sell the brutality.
Yeah, that's what they were trying to do. There was a couple cool bits. I mean, the code breaker, all these New Japan guys sell the code breaker like it's a freaking gunshot, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That's really cool. Naito had his own one knee code breaker. Yeah.
So towards the end, Jericho tosses a bunch of chairs in the ring, almost hits Naito in the head with one. Tries to powerbomb Naito on them. However, Naito reverses into a DDT of his own, sending Jericho's head into the chairs. Then after that, he hits his own kind of like one-legged code breaker. Jericho kicks out. Naito hits a German suplex on all the chairs. Jericho pushes the ref, Red Shoes, hits Naito in the front area, hits a code breaker, second one of the match that he's hit. Naito kicks out. Jericho kicks out of Destino, and then Naito grabs the Intercontinental title, that it's like, that Intercontinental title is so important to Naito's overall story. Hits Jericho with it, hits Destino for the win. It's funny because after he hit Jericho with it, he just threw the title out of the ring.
He chucked that thing.
Yeah. But then after the match, when Red Shoe's son gave him the belt, he held it. He asked for it like this, and Red Shoe's son kind of folded up a little bit and handed it to him. And granted, he wasn't throwing it around. He was kind of holding it to his side and kind of dragging the end of it on the floor.
Right, yeah.
But it seemed like he was holding it with a tad bit more respect than he had previously.
I'll say this: it is a fascinating relationship that they have built between Naito and that IC title, because on one hand he completely and totally resents it.
Yep.
And on the other hand, it's his.
Yeah.
So
he may not like the belt, but it's his belt.
That's a metaphor for something.
Yeah.
And it is a fascinating character trait that they have built between him and that title.
Well, the thing with the story they've been doing with Naito the last year and a half, it seems like, has been that he can't let go of his past. It cost him in his match against Okada because he did his old finisher, and he's been hampered by that ever since. So maybe the story they're going with, I have no idea, is he gets over the resentment he has towards that belt, and that can be the springboard to greater success.
That could be.
Who knows?
I like looking at what they're doing with the stories. I think it's interesting to speculate about that stuff. Even if we're completely wrong, that's the most interesting thing about New
and
Japan.
we're usually completely wrong. And then our main event for the IWGP Heavyweight title, Hiroshi Tanahashi, the challenger, taking on the champion, Kenny Omega.
Who made it perfectly clear that he was pretty emotional about what seems to be pretty validated. He's leaving New Japan. So that was pretty interesting.
He had some pretty cool entrance attire. Seth
that was great.
Yeah, it was great.
It was awesome. Yeah. And they played the little video game Undertale-esque thing.
Yeah.
Proceeded that I guess he didn't think was going to precede the match. Maybe they, as a thank you or whatever, they let him do a bit of it
maybe
beforehand.
Maybe.
But yeah, it was obvious. He came out with the Young Bucks. It was just a different vibe for all of them. It was sort of it's like the kind of thing where it's like, man, we have such great memories of doing this, but we're all just ready to move on. That's just the vibe I got. And again, maybe I'm projecting because you obviously know that the Young Bucks are moving on.
Yeah.
Kenny, we heard the rumors hours before that he was moving on. And their vibe kind of just fit with that general mood. Like even when they were doing the Terminator thing, it just seemed like an obligation. Like, okay, this is what we do now.
This is a beat we have to hit during the match.
And there's a reason why we're not really huge into doing this, because we're moving on. Like, we're ready for different things now.
Yeah.
But hell of a match.
Yeah, it was great. And the story of Tanahashi kind of representing the traditional strong style of New Japan versus Kenny saying he wrestles a style that's appealing to pretty much anybody, played out pretty early on because Tanahashi was sticking to his traditional offense. Kenny was trying to, early on he brought a table out to the ringside area. And at one moment, Tanahashi had opportunity where he could put Kenny on there and do something. He didn't do it.
Yeah.
Kenny sets up for the Terminator spot. Tanahashi gets in the ring and cuts him off when he's about to start running the ropes. All that kind of stuff. Eventually, though, Tanahashi was just kind of doing anything he needed to do to get the win. He hit a Styles Clash on Kenny. He did put Kenny on the table eventually, go for a high fly flow. Kenny got out of the way, so Tanahashi went through it. But yeah, down the end, it was super intense. There's this one spot where Kenny hits a powerbomb, Tanahashi kicks out. Kenny hits another powerbomb, Tanahashi kicks out. Another powerbomb, another kick out. Kenny hit a sling blade, then his own high fly flow, and then Tanahashi kicks out at one. Because when Kenny was hitting those powerbombs, like Tanahashi's kickouts looked like weak.
I noticed that. What's funny is that there were multiple matches.
There were. Even the Osprey one, there was a couple of kickouts when Cody was doing something. It seemed like he had a hard time kicking out. But this Tanahashi stuff, this had to be intentional. Because when Kenny hits that high fly flow, Tanahashi sprung up right at one.
Yeah.
That had to have been somewhat intentional.
I agree, yeah.
To sell the brutality of the match. And then when Tanahashi is supposed to Hulk out, essentially, after Kenny kind of insults him by hitting a high fly flow on him. He's like, oh, no, I'm not going to take that.
Yeah.
Pop right up.
Yeah.
And again, it's a story where Kenny, if he hits one winged angel, odds are he's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
He cannot get it off this match.
Yeah.
Tanahashi had to answer every time he tried to go for a one winged angel. One time it was a reverse Rana. The other time he just kind of got out of it, hit a sling blade, which led to the actual finish of the match. Kenny did a top rope dragon suplex. Last time we saw him do that against Okada, he dropped Okada, or it seemed like Okada landed almost on his head.
I looked away.
Yeah, Tanahashi did a full rotation, so he landed on his stomach.
Oh, man.
In the end, though, Tanahashi mentioned reversed one winged angel, hit a sling blade, went to the top, hit a third high fly flow, and got the win.
And then delivered a. Where did Kenny? I mean, they just quantum leaped him out of there, didn't they?
Pretty much. He rolled the ring. They had a couple of reaction shots of him, and then they walked up the ramp.
I mean, I'm sure he's going to make an appearance at New Year's Dash tomorrow.
Maybe.
That was part of the rumor. So let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Tanahashi air guitar too.
Yeah. Well, he said he was too exhausted to do it at first. He says, all right, one song, and then he kind of collapsed.
Yeah.
During it. So this is from Body Slam. Well, first, in their most recent newsletter, I believe, Meltzer mentioned that WWE had offered Kenny a huge deal. $3.5 million annually. And then pretty much right before Wrestle Kingdom began, we were made aware of this bodyslam.net story saying that Kenny was done in New Japan. Quote, while speaking to a well-placed source who has given me exclusive stories in the past, he has mentioned that Kenny Omega is finished with New Japan Pro Wrestling and will not be re-signing with the company. In addition, it is believed that he could be done with the promotion as early as this weekend. So we were always under the understanding that his contract lasted till the end of January. So I don't know what our legal machinations are in play here, which could make that happen if it can. Who knows?
If I recall, and I was trying to look this up during the stream, when Shinsuke's contract was up.
It's a different time, though, man.
Oh, no. But I'm not. Let me finish my thought.
Okay, sorry.
I think they sat him for a while.
New Japan or WWE?
New Japan. So I think there was like one final short tour, and they simply didn't have him show up for it.
That could be. I think because he beat AJ Styles at Wrestle Kingdom.
Right.
For the IC title. Next day at New Year's Dash, he vacated the title.
Yes.
And I think that was the last time he was seen in New Japan.
Yeah. But I think if I remember correctly, he had more dates on the contract that they could have had him work, and they simply didn't.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if they released him early. I was trying to get that info, and I
think AJ was the same situation where his contract wasn't set to expire till the end of the month or something like that. And I'm like, okay, you can get out of it early.
But I mean, we do not know like you said, the legal machinations.
With the competition being more heightened than it was even just 3 or 4 years ago, I would be hard pressed to believe New Japan be like, yeah, cool, we can just leave a couple weeks early, given what they're trying to accomplish here in the States.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. The flip side to that is Kenny has done so much.
I understand.
So much. And, I mean, seriously, I don't know. I honestly don't see what it would hurt. Like you say, competition. There's no competition. There isn't. I mean, WWE, I'm sure everybody wants to protect their own ground. I get that. But at a certain point, I mean, it's inevitable. It's like, okay, well, he's either going to be at the Rumble or he's not, That's the only deal there is. And so I don't know. It would surprise me if keeping him on and keeping him grounded for just another couple weeks so he couldn't be at the Rumble after everything he's done for their expansion, being the figurehead for their expansion, I would find it hard to believe that they would be like, oh yeah, no, you can't do the Rumble. But I don't know. I mean, according to this, he could be done as early as this weekend, in which case it would seem that New Japan would be like, okay, cool, go ahead and do your thing. So,
Bodyslam.net continues, quote, other reports that have been circulating have mentioned that Omega is expected to have a meeting with WWE in the next few days, and the decision is to be made by Monday. This seems to line up with the information that I was told by my source regarding Omega leaving New Japan. It continues, I was also told that there is said to be, quote, something big planned for tomorrow's New Year's Dash event as well. This leads me to speculate that a potential send-off for Omega could be planned, possibly similar to what the company did for AJ Styles. the last night with the company before departing for WWE.
Yeah.
Of course, in that instance, the Young Bucks turned on him.
Yeah.
And kicked him out of Bullet Club.
Was I'm trying to remember. I think it was either Sportskeeda or Sportster had the thing about the WWE contract. Number one being or I think Meltzer said it was a $3.5 million.
Yeah, a huge offer. Yeah.
But then the concept of them helping him
launch a gaming YouTube channel or something like that.
And Xavier Woods being part of a big part of their recruitment of him. And yeah, Kenny Omega has said multiple times, and it's fairly obvious, he wants a career as a professional gaming celebrity. Mm-hmm. And tell me the WWE can't do that for that is the place to go given what we've seen with up, down, down.
Yeah.
I mean, that itself. And then on top of that, look at everybody who's there. I mean, you've got AJ Styles there. Kenny Omega said he wants to fight AJ Styles.
Seth Rollins wants to have a match against Kenny Omega.
And Kenny Omega said, let's make it happen. So
Kenny Omega said he'd like to have a match against Buddy Murphy.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
That is so great. So, and here's the thing also, Kota Ibushi's a free agent. So if he wants to pick this up, then, that's a great way to lure Kota Ibushi over to WWE. So it feels like, and here's the thing, I don't believe for a second that he's going to go to All Elite Wrestling, because why would he do that?
Yeah, the only reason to do that is just to stay with your friends and help them out.
And there's literally nothing he can do there that he couldn't do already in New Japan with a better setup.
Yeah.
So, it makes sense.
The reason to do All Elite would be just to take on the challenge of building something new. That's pretty much it.
Which is never anything he said that he's interested in doing. He said many times, many different things that he is interested in doing, many of which would involve being in WWE. So yeah, and on top of that, there's a couple other things. There's Meltzer in the newsletter a couple weeks ago saying 3 out of the 4 members of the Elite, if you take Cody, Kenny, Matt, and Nick, as having turned down 3 of the 4 turned down main event level money, which means 1 of the 4, and granted we were trying to read that a couple different ways, but it looks like 1 of those 4, Kenny, didn't turn them down. Triple H has been very good at recruiting talent, and assuring that talent and saying, hey, Ronda Rousey, we're going to pay you big money. We're going to obviously then put you in a big spotlight. If you're giving Kenny Omega $3.5 million, you're not going to have him in the mid-card scene.
Probably not.
He's going to have an AJ Styles type role in the company. That seems to make all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
So, that's pretty exciting stuff and kind of unexpected.
It's exciting, and I'm happy for him if that's what he wants to do. But at the same time, I can't help but feel a little disappointed. Is not the right word.
Really?
Because I still feel like there's still things he could have done in New Japan.
What, fight Kota Ibushi?
Yeah.
And then what?
Then he can go to WWE.
That's pretty much it. I don't know. The thing is that Golden Lover story didn't really have a whole lot going for it anyways. Like, it kind of did at the beginning, but then it just sort of fizzled out. So I don't know, man. I think
I think part of it too is I'm really rooting for Cody and the Young Bucks to really establish something.
Yeah.
And while I didn't have a whole lot of expectation that Kenny would necessarily follow him to All Elite, a part of me, the idealist in me was like, let's the core group of the Elite stick together, really try to build something and not compete with WWE, but just set up a good, viable alternative to what the WWE is producing. I think there's a certain, I don't know, there's something about going out there and creating your own thing and investing everything you have and creating this thing that could turn to something potentially pretty magical. There's something that's pretty neat about that. And I'm not going to besmirch Kenny by any stretch of imagination of doing what's best for him. No way. It's exciting to see him against AJ Styles at WrestleMania and Seth Rollins and all sorts of other amazing talents at WWE. It's just kind of a bittersweet moment, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, I mentioned this during the stream. It feels like the best thing and the most exciting thing for the Young Bucks is, and Cody, is All Elite Wrestling. I think the bittersweet, you're right. The Elite, to me, was always Kenny and the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
And do you know why they were the Elite? because they were the best wrestlers on the planet. The Young Bucks were the best wrestlers. And when I say wrestlers, I mean storytellers, guys who can get in that ring and do everything.
And elicit an emotional response from the audience.
When Cody came along and kind of usurped Kenny, it kind of changed into let's create something, which is fine, which is totally fine.
Totally.
But to me, it stopped being like Kenny sort of was on the sideline in terms of the elite group.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, this guy is like the best wrestler on the planet. He's elite. Like that's what it was all about for me. And then they did All In, and that's great. That's awesome. You have Being the Elite, and that's great. That's awesome. But it sort of got away from what I originally really loved about that group was we put on the best matches on the planet, and nobody can touch that. Cody Rhodes ain't putting on the best match on the planet. And he's amazing and he does really, really great stuff. And I love the imagination that he has to put on something like All In. I love that. But that never was the elite for me. For me, it was like, man, these guys are the best wrestlers. And so creating All Elite Wrestling is something that's awesome and perfect for Cody and the Young Bucks because that's what they want to do. And that's great. And they look at WWE's tag division and like, well, that's not really for us. And that makes sense. For Kenny Omega, WWE makes all the sense in the world for him.
Sense, yeah.
You know?
It doesn't make any sense to go to All Elite Wrestling. You're not going to leave the number 2 wrestling promotion on the planet to join a startup unless you really want to help, you really want to continue working with your friends and you want to accept the challenge of really trying to build something new.
But look at who he has in WWE in terms of his friends. He's got the Club. He's got AJ. He's got Finn. He's got Shinsuke. All those guys that he has history with.
The New Day.
He's got and probably his best friend, you know? So, man, I'm like super stoked for the guy. But you see them out there tonight, all the history they have together.
I know, and I think
in
that's
that company.
I guess that's I hesitate to use the word disappointment because that's not right. It's bittersweet because of that. Because the three of them were such a cohesive group, and to see that group maybe disbanding in the near future,
you know what it is
a bit of a bummer.
You know why it's a bummer? There was nothing celebratory about tonight.
No,
with them, and that's what cast a big pall. They, like you said, the Young Bucks, they didn't come out with their usual swagger. Everybody was sad.
Neither did Kenny.
And neither did Kenny. He was almost crying.
He was able to turn on when the match started, but walking out, he didn't. He
turned on the Kenny Omega cleaner character.
Yeah.
Right? But you kind of see through that.
There's the lack of, and maybe we'll get the celebration at New Year's Dash. Who knows?
You're right. Yeah, I think we probably will. I hope so.
And, you know, if the reports are true and Kenny's going to get this huge payday and hopefully the WWE is going to roll out the red carpet for him and really give him the opportunities creatively that he deserves, then it won't be as much of a disappointment. It's just the WWE's track record is not necessarily great. Bringing in, you know, free agents of this caliber. Yeah, they did good by AJ, but that was because AJ was so phenomenal that, you know, Vince didn't bring him initially to be a top guy. He just impressed Vince so much that he elevated himself to that position. Yeah. You know, you see how a lot of the top talents in NXT get brought up, and you're like, all right, that's kind of mishandled. Yeah. Like Nakamura could be doing so much more. And that's not to say that he's been treated unfairly. We just saw what he could do in NXT, and he's not been given the opportunity, I feel like, to really approach that. Mm-hmm. So it's while I'm excited for Kenny, if this is what he wants, great. I'm really happy for him. It's just, as a fan of the product, if he's going to WWE, I want it to be fantastic. Yeah. And based on WWE's track record, I have to have some pause about it and be somewhat pessimistic.
We hold Kenny in such high esteem.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he is such a cut above
And I'm sure he's well aware of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, how people are coming to WWE, and sometimes they creatively, they know what they want to do, and it's a home run out of the gate. But a lot of times there's hits and misses, and they fumble creative plans, and people make advances and take 2 steps back. So, you know, it's not a seamless process by any stretch of the imagination.
The expectations...
Whereas I know if Kenny
Go ahead, please.
Whereas I know if Kenny stays in New Japan or goes to All Elite, I know what I'm going to get.
Mm-hmm,
I know exactly what I'm going to get, and it's going to be good.
Yeah. The expectations for Kenny Omega in WWE are, I honestly cannot think of of another situation where the expectations are there.
Nope.
I really can't. I mean, this is a really silly parallel, but like Goldberg, you know, but Goldberg was a terrible wrestler, so it's not the same, you know. But in terms of somebody coming in, that it's like, oh my gosh, they're coming in. You know, in this day and age, there is no equal to that. He is such a cut above everybody else in the non-WWE world that his expectations are so through the roof. But I do kind of feel, and look, man, this is me being maybe unrealistically optimistic, but if Triple H is handed Kenny Omega in the same way that he has evidently been handed Ronda Rousey, I think that's a positive. I think that could only be positive stuff because they have been able to turn Ronda Rousey into such a legit star in the WWE, and they've handled her so perfectly, I think, that you get somebody who already is the best wrestler on the planet. You get him in that situation, and Triple H is the one who's like, okay, this is what's going on.
Assuming Triple H is the one in that role. I mean,
I will guarantee you, man.
Vince will be cool with Triple H's handling of Ronda because Triple H knows that Ronda's going to make him money.
Yeah.
And I know he's backing up the Brinks truck for Kenny, evidently, if all this is true. But we've seen several Triple H guys. You know, yeah, Finn Balor was Universal Champ.
He ain't making $3.5 million.
I know, but he's probably doing pretty darn well for himself.
He ain't making Seth Rollins money. Seth Rollins is.
Yeah.
You know, look at Dean Ambrose. Like, he's making like probably
$2 million.
Approximating like Seth Rollins money. And for whatever reason, they always push him.
Yeah, someone in WWE likes it.
You know, and he's got like a sliver of the talent that Kenny Omega does.
That's for sure.
So look, man, I share your pessimism. I temper it a little bit with my optimism, and we'll see what happens. But this is fascinating.
It's interesting.
If nothing else,
it comes to pass.
If nothing else, it's fascinating. The next couple days are going to be fascinating.
Something else.
Yeah. Anyways, it's really early in the morning.
Yeah.
So thanks everybody for tuning in and sticking with us. The live stream was a blast.
Yes, it was.
Always.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Yeah, you'll get our thoughts about New Year's Dash coming up on Monday. We'll be going live at 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon Eastern. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, we'll talk to you guys later.
Goodbye.